So a lot of Americans will travel or live abroad and they'll have people tell them like, oh, whenever you get to Brazil, make sure you check in with the U.S. Embassy. Make sure you let them know you're staying at. And if any problems happen, they'll come get you out of the situation. They'll help you. And I can tell you guys for the most part, that is very far from the truth. The U.S. Embassy is not a superhero. They're not the United States Navy SEALs. There'll be no helicopter coming to do a special ops operation to come get you out of the drug cartels' hands and all that other stuff going on over there. So I'm going to break it down step by step on some scenarios where they did help and some scenarios where they could have helped and they did not help you at all. I think you guys overestimate the power that the UN and that the U.S. embassies or all embassies in general have in other countries. They are not in their home country, so they cannot perform the same actions. I'm Austin Holleman, and we're going to break this subject down all the way, and I want to hear you guys' comments at the end. Like the video, subscribe, let's get into it. So the first part is the U.S. Embassy is there, but it is not your superhero. What do I mean by this? Yes, the embassy can help you abroad, but their power is limited by that country's laws and politics. For example, if the United States Embassy is in Brazil, yes, that is the U.S. Embassy. Yes, that particular piece of land that is on is that's a different jurisdiction technically, but it still has to abide by the rules of Brazil or Uganda or Qatar or wherever it's at. They can visit you in jail and make sure you're not being tortured, even though that stuff is still happening anyway. They'll notify your family and give you a list of local attorneys like they did me when I had the baby scammer. I was trying to ask the U.S. Embassy for help because somebody thought they were fucking Batman. So call the embassy, call the embassy. You want to know what the embassy told me? We'll leave the country if you feel unsafe. No shit, I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought if I felt unsafe to buy a plane ticket and leave. No, that would have never crossed my mind. So that's what the embassy would do for you. They would tell you, leave the country, and they'll say, hey, you need a lawyer, get this lawyer. Stuff that you pretty much could have thought of on your own. They also can help coordinate emergency loans, or lost passports. So yes, I've had a friend in Thailand. He lost his passport. He was able to go to the embassy. I think the passport only lasted for 1 year, and he could only fly back to the United States or U.S. territories such as Guam and Puerto Rico and stuff like that. They cannot break you out of jail or assist in arguing your case in court, and they are not paying any legal fees, so do not expect that. They operate under the host country's sovereignty, meaning they must respect the laws of the country that you are in. For example, in Qatar, there was an American couple that was jailed for allegedly killing their adopted daughter. And the U.S. Embassy could not get them out, but they did advocate quietly. And after months of pressure, a Qatari court overturned the conviction. So they still had to sit in jail for months for something that they didn't do. So yes, they didn't kill them, but the embassy is not going to come get you out and call the Navy SEALs and come kick in the door. That's not how the United States has a lot of power, but they don't have that much power. They still have rules that they do follow. Furthermore on that, if you are wrongfully jailed and somebody is using you as a political pawn, for example, if you're arrested or brought on false charges, it can still take you months or years for the U.S. to secure getting you a release in the first place. You'll likely be labeled wrongfully detained if the arrest is politically motivated. For example, Brittany Griner. And of course, this will escalate your case to the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, and it can involve secret negotiations, sanctions, or even prisoner swaps if you're that important. Yes, they swapped Brittany Griner. Yes, they did. That was because she was well known and she was gay. If she went and she was black. If it wasn't for those three, she would still be in jail in Russia right now. Yes, she was being used as a political prisoner, yes, and that's how they got that swap that they wanted for the Merchant of Death. But there's also guys that have been sitting in Russia on wrongful charges in jail for years. Shit, probably even decades. I know you heard about the 2 black men that were in jail in Ecuador for false charges. They didn't get the Brittany Griner treatment, so don't expect that just because she got it. That being said, yes, high-profile detainees can get help due to public pressure. For example, enough people follow my YouTube. God forbid, if I ever got arrested and put in jail, I would have a better shot than somebody that's watching this video that has 30 followers on Instagram. Because I'm Austin Holleman. I have people that actually are tuning into my channel every day, and if they knew I was in jail, there'd be enough people that could speak up where maybe the president could hear about it and something could be done about it. But an average person should not expect that, and that's a treatment that Brittany Griner got. Same thing would happen to Michael Jordan if he went to prison in Russia. But no matter how high profile you are, if you are committing espionage, which means you're spying on that country, don't expect to get out. Actually, you should expect to be executed. There's a guy named Paul Whelan who's been in Russia since 2018 on bogus espionage charges. Even after the U.S. swapped the Merchant of Death for Brittany Griner, he was still left behind because the Russians wanted more in return for that guy in particular, because Brittany Griner was not accused of being a spy. So that's the difference between smoking weed in Russia and being a spy in Russia. Keep that in mind. Now, one that I found really interesting is if you are caught in a war zone like South Sudan and Sudan, whenever all that was going on, or Somalia during Black Hawk Down during that time in Mogadishu, do not count on a movie-style rescue. I keep telling you guys that. In times of political instability or a civil war, the embassy's priority is getting its staff out, not you. So if you guys have seen the movie 13 Hours in Benghazi, all of those people that were being rescued, yeah, they were staff of the U.S. Embassy and like government officials. They weren't, oh, Austin Holleman is in Benghazi and oh, yeah, come to the embassy. We're going to have helicopters and people fighting for you. No, they won't. They won't do that. I think the last time that may have happened was during Vietnam, whenever the North Vietnamese was taking over Ho Chi Minh City. And yeah, and then maybe in that scenario, they'll come airlift you out of there. But I mean, leave a comment any other time that has happened. Now, the first thing the United States will do is warn you to leave early using commercial options, basically saying buy your own plane ticket, get out. The United States will only organize evacuations if safe routes and resources are available, and during times of civil war, I doubt that's the case. You'll likely have to repay the U.S. government for any rescue, and those rescues will not be cheap. The embassy won't send convoys, as you've seen in Black Hawk Down or 13 Hours of Benghazi, into a war zone unless it's absolutely necessary. Many Americans are told to shelter in place until they can escape themselves. Basically, they're saying, fuck you, you're on your own. For example, in Sudan in 2023, you guys may have remembered that they had a war that started there during that time. The embassy staff were airlifted out, but 16,000 Americans were still left behind in South Sudan. Like I said, fuck you, figure it out yourself. They had to escape via land routes or boats, often without direct United States assistance. Keep that in mind whenever you're stranded somewhere. So if you're somewhere, for example, if you are in Kenya, or I don't care if you're in Rwanda or if you're in Brazil and it feels like there's about to be a genocide or a civil war going on, the minute you see that, okay, this is about to get serious, your best bet is to get out on your own. Because if they start blocking off exits and borders and all that kind of stuff starts going on, the Navy SEALs are not coming to come save you with a helicopter and sliding down ropes. That shit's not happening. Your passport is not a shield. It's just a piece of paper in another country. Being an American citizen doesn't exempt you from a foreign country's laws or their politics. Keep that in mind. Americans have been jailed for things like vaping oil, expired visas, or even protest participation. You guys shouldn't be participating in protests in the first place. What's legal in the United States might be a serious offense in other countries, so make sure you follow the laws and read for strange laws. The government has on their website, the United States government has on their travel advisory, strange laws that maybe we wouldn't even think of that do exist in other countries. So make sure you educate yourself on that as well. Some governments arrest Americans to send political messages, such as Brittany Griner. If you're in a dictatorship, like Nicaragua, or a non-ally country like North Korea, consular access may be limited or non-existent. For example, there is no U.S. embassy in North Korea. If a United States citizen is in North Korea, I don't even know why you'd be there in the first place. But if you are there, you would have to go through the Swedish embassy to get in contact with the U.S. embassy in another place. So that's how that would work there. For example, Oda Warmbier, which was a student in North Korea, was jailed for allegedly stealing a poster. I hope you guys do remember this story. He apparently snatched a poster off the wall, and North Korea is super strict with crime, so they locked him up, and they sentenced him to 15 years of hard labor for snatching a poster off the wall. And basically, whenever they returned him, he was in a coma, brain dead, and he died shortly after returning. The United States Embassy was not there to help him, and the Swedish Embassy could do nothing about it. I've always said this. You guys are on your own when you go to these other countries. You are on your own. In my opinion, the United States Embassy is good for maybe those emergency loans to get a plane ticket out of the country, or even maybe, getting something notarized or getting your U.S. passport renewed. Other than that, the whole Black Hawk Down, saving your life, busting windows, it's not happening. So I don't want to drag the embassy through the mud the entire time because you may need them. And I'm going to state, when do they actually help Americans abroad? The U.S. will intervene strongly only when the risk is low and the optics are high. So basically, when they can do the least amount of effort and it's in their favor as well. They'll act fast if you're a celebrity journalist or high-profile American, and friendly governments like Qatar or Turkey are more likely to cooperate with the United States. They'll arrange evacuations if there's enough time and military presence, and you'll get help if it doesn't jeopardize diplomats or soldiers. So basically, unrealistic expectations. You're more likely to get assistance if your case aligns with U.S. strategic interests. Basically, if it's about money. During the Afghanistan withdrawal in 2021, the United States evacuated 5,500 citizens only because it had troops on the ground and intense political pressure to leave no American behind. So I want you guys to leave in the comments one other country that could be repeated in right now, where there's so many U.S. troops and at some point they might evacuate and take everybody with them. Another story is whenever there was a civil war going on in Yemen, there were Americans that had been advised, hey, you need to leave because the U.S. Embassy saw the situation building up. And of course, if you didn't leave, that was kind of on you because they do offer loans. But some Americans didn't leave. And there was even a guy that ran to the beach, to the coast of Yemen. And he could see the Navy sailing and he was calling like, help, they're going to get me if you guys don't help. And the soldiers wouldn't help him because they didn't have the authority to. And it was too risky for them to do it. Even though it was a ship full of military soldiers, they didn't do it. So keep that in mind. For you Americans that think that the embassy is going to help you with everything, they're not, I would say. I'm not saying they're completely useless. They are there for a purpose. But you still need to learn that you are on your own. And if you guys would like to learn more behind the scenes stories on my Patreon, the link will be in the first pinned comment. You can sign up and hear what daily life is like, actually hearing some stuff that I cannot put on YouTube because it is too sensitive for YouTube. That'll be in the first pinned comment. And to elaborate further on the U.S. Embassy not helping you, and I brought up that behind the Chinese baby situation, the fake baby, that I called and I wanted assistance and they pretty much didn't really tell me anything. You can click this video right here to watch more about that story on how I was scammed in Kenya for a baby that wasn't mine. I'll see you guys next time.